because this has been my fairy tale, basically. So let me read it, because else I won't get through it, and then I'll let you all go back to your own families and your own day. So a long time ago, a young man fell in love, kind of love that made you spend $300 US a month on long-distance phone calls. For many of you on the team, you don't even know that you had to pay for long-distance phone calls. But back in the day, you had to pay for long-distance phone calls. And I spent $300 US a month calling from the future to the past to talk to my wife, Jamie. It also is a kind of love that has you move across the planet. And so this young man moved across the planet with 2 suitcases. It was literally all I had in the world when I moved here. And so this fairy tale story is a dreamer's story. Once here in the United States, this young man started working. Things were going pretty well. He got married. Then one day, his father got really ill back home, had to return many times to attend to his sick father. Eventually had to leave home and his job and return to his father in New Zealand. After his father's passing, he returned to the United States. He couldn't find a job. For 6 months, he looked and couldn't find a job. Then one day, he met a gambler, a person who saw something in this young man that he didn't see in himself. And he took a bet on this young man and hired him as an individual contributor into business development for this brand new website called weather.com. This young man was so excited to have a job, so excited to learn. He poured everything, all his time, all his effort into learning everything he could about this business. Then one day he was confronted with a dilemma. Take a promotion and run business development, or step to the side and take a big leap and join a brand new product working on the Palm 5. Some of you are going to have to Google that. After discussing with his wife, the young man gambled and went with a sidestep. Because one day, and it seems crazy to say now, he believed that mobile was going to be pretty big. A few years later, out of the blue, a young man's BlackBerry rings. It was Steve Jobs. I almost hung up on him, by the way. He asked if we would help him on a secret project, but he wouldn't tell me what it was. He asked me to sign a personal non-disclosure agreement, personally, assuming all the liability for the project. That would mean the entire risk of the project was on my shoulders. He also required a room with no windows. He required the locks to be changed and to be only 3 keys. One for me, one for a developer, and one for him. He required that the desk had a wood grain top on it, and that we drilled a hole in the desk. 2 days later, 2 people from Apple showed up with a briefcase. They placed 2 devices I'd never seen before on the desk. They then used a bicycle lock to lock those devices to the desk. And then they took photos of the devices on the desk so that they could track any leaks that happened in the press back to that desk. To say this young man was nervous about what he'd agreed to is a huge understatement. The young man was scared. He hadn't told his boss, hadn't told the leadership team. He was way out over his skis. After 4 weeks, Apple launched this new device and changed the world. This young man's company, your company, have been partners with them. Mobile apps went on to become the fastest growing part of the company, and the young man kept growing, kept learning, kept reading everything he could about the digital economy. He also kept asking the dumb questions. Shortly before that, this young man had witnessed something he'd never seen before. In 1 year, 5 Category 4 or above hurricanes all hit the United States, all made landfall, all in populated areas. One of those storms in particular, you all know, is Katrina, killed over 2,000 people. I went to New Orleans about 6 weeks after Katrina hit, and as a relatively young product manager, we were just starting mobile, and the smell in the street is something I will never, ever, ever forget. A few years later, one spring day not unlike today here in Atlanta, a tornado touched down in Joplin. It lifted the soil off the ground. Nobody where it touched lived. 158 people died that day. Those are two of literally thousands of events that have happened in my 17 years here. Every one of them leaving an indelible imprint and a job undone, a job not finished. This young man, for whatever reason, was promoted a few times more and learned quickly he couldn't do this alone, but really needed an amazing team. At first, he hired from the outside. That didn't go so well. Then he promoted from within with much better success. He bought a few companies, Weather Underground, Weather Central, recast the mission to mapping the atmosphere, focusing on B2C and B2B, expanded to new partners like Microsoft, IBM, Google, Facebook, Samsung, and many, many others. Then one day, a big company asked to buy the young man's company. The young man asked his board what he should do. They said, let's run an auction for the company. So we did. IBM won that auction, and shortly thereafter, the weather company became part of IBM. Clearly, that young man was me, and this is a brief summary of my last 17 plus years at the weather company. It has truly been a fairy tale. It's truly been the American dream. I can't thank each and every one of you enough. There are no words other than thank you. You've been my teammates. You've been my friends. You've been my tutor. I've learned more from all of you than you will ever learn from me. You created my American dream, and I can't thank you enough. You've all made me better than I really am. But on this journey, when you do something like this for as long as you have and as long as I have, you also lose some incredible people. We've lost too many people, too many colleagues to cancer, and I wear bright colored socks for one of those people today. My legacy is not about building the weather company. It's not about selling the weather company to IBM. My legacy, I believe, is working with leaders like all of you. Every one of you is a leader. And it's with tremendous pride that I get to pass the baton as the general manager and the CEO of the weather company to one of my very best friends, Sherry Baxting. Sherry and I have been working on this transition for a really long time. You might not know that, but we've been working on this for a long time. I've shared with her all the load-bearing walls. She knows more than I know about this company. She knows this team. She knows this business. She knows how to save lives. Sherry's the right person at the right time to be the CEO of the weather company. We'll continue to meet, and I'll continue to help her and all of you every way I possibly can. Sherry is better than me, and she'll take TWC much further than I ever could. But she can't do it alone. She needs all of you. You're all leaders. I ask all of you to lead, to serve. You have to rally together, instill confidence, drive decisions, and propel the world. And if you do that, you will truly be essential. You will truly save lives. Haere mai, kia kaha. Thank you, IBM. Thank you, TWC. And thank you, Jamie. To you, you're now the CEO of the weather company and our Viking leader. Congratulations.